We often think of ourselves as good people, but deep down, a staggering number of us lead double lives, concealing our darkest insecurities behind a mask of kindness and compassion. What lies beneath this facade is a desperate need for validation and control, which can fuel an insidious desire to manipulate others to get what we want. If you've ever found yourself drawn to someone who seemed perfect on the outside, only to watch them systematically pull you into their web of dependency, you're not alone. We've all seen it happen in ourselves or someone we care about. In this video, we'll be delving into the shadowy psychological dynamics that drive even the most well-intentioned individuals to use people to feed their own insecurities, and what this reveals about the human condition. Here are 6 insightful spoken sentences for the section, The Facade of Perfection: Unmasking the Good Guy Complex. The so-called good guy often wears a mask that conceals his deepest insecurities, a shield from the vulnerability of being hurt, which paradoxically fuels his relentless pursuit of validation from others. When we're desperate for approval, we'll do anything to prove ourselves, even if it means sacrificing our integrity and manipulating those around us to see us in a more favorable light. This good guy complex is built on an ego that craves admiration and control, a desperate attempt to ward off feelings of powerlessness and insignificance in the face of our own inadequacies. But what drives this craving for admiration, this unrelenting need for validation? Often, it's a deep-seated fear of being rejected, of being seen for who we truly are, and not being found attractive or likable. Behind the veneer of selflessness and altruism, the good guy often hides a self-serving agenda, a hidden motive to use others for his own emotional and psychological gratification, a toxic dynamic that perpetuates a cycle of exploitation and codependency. In our relentless quest for perfection, we create illusions. We deceive ourselves into believing that we're better than we are, until the facade finally cracks and we're forced to confront the harsh reality of our own insecurities and the damage we've caused to those around us. When we assume the best intentions in others, we often ignore the profound impact of their insecurities, and that's exactly where their manipulation begins. People who feel insecure about their own worth and identity become magnets for the attention and validation they crave, often in the most toxic of ways. We're conditioned to believe that a person with good intentions will always speak their truth and be transparent. But the reality is that even those with good intentions will twist and distort the truth to satisfy their hidden agendas and alleviate their own feelings of inadequacy. Manipulation is rarely ever about getting what we want, but rather about getting someone to see the world from our own distorted perspective, to validate our own self-image. For those who struggle with feelings of inadequacy and powerlessness, manipulation becomes a means to an end, a way to exert control and influence over others, to compensate for the lack of control they feel in their own lives. This can often be dressed up as concern or helping, but at its core, it's a desperate attempt to validate and elevate one's own ego in the eyes of others. When we label someone as a good guy or a true helper, we often conveniently overlook the fine print of their motivations, blinded by our own desire to see kindness in others. What we sometimes mistake for altruism or generosity is actually an attempt to fill the void within, to validate our own identity through the adoration and gratitude of others. The good guy mask often conceals a deep-seated need for control, a fear of being vulnerable and open, and a desperate drive to avoid rejection and criticism. Behind the charming smile and empathetic ears of the good guy lies a complex web of insecurities, anxieties, and fears that fuel their manipulation of others. Many of these individuals are drawn to their helper's role because it provides them with a sense of importance, a validation of their own self-worth, and a means to subtly wield power over others. In their quest for validation and control, they employ the ultimate form of self-deception, convincing themselves that their actions are genuine and benevolent, while in reality they are serving their own twisted needs. When we observe the actions of those we've often classified as good guys, it's startling to see how their insecurities can so easily tip the scales, causing them to manipulate others in pursuit of validation and control. Deep down, these individuals frequently crave the attention and admiration they claim to dismiss as shallow, and in this desperate desire for acceptance, they sacrifice their own integrity, often unconsciously, on the altar of their own ego. The problem lies not in their intentions, but in the fragile, insecurity-driven mechanisms that propel them to seek validation through manipulation, creating an endless cycle of self-deception and reinforcement. One of the most insidious aspects of this dynamic is the way it fuels an attraction to those who are vulnerable or easily influenced, allowing good guys to temporarily satisfy their insecurities and momentarily inflate their own sense of self-worth. But what's perhaps most striking is the fear beneath the surface. The fear of being seen, of being understood, of being vulnerable, and the desperation to avoid this vulnerability at all costs, even if it means sacrificing one's own moral compass. In the quest to avoid exposure and maintain a carefully crafted facade, these good guys often create an illusion of control, not realizing that in the process, they are losing sight of their true selves and perpetuating a cycle of manipulation that can be just as damaging as any overt act of aggression. People often hide behind a mask of altruism to shield their own vulnerabilities from the harsh light of scrutiny. Insecurities can drive even the well-intentioned to manipulate others, using charm and deception as instruments of emotional control. The more we crave validation, the more we'll resort to tactics that prioritize our own need for self-assurance over genuine connection and empathy. We've all seen the good guy syndrome, where a sense of moral righteousness is used to mask an acute need for control and dominance. At its core, the desire to dominate is often rooted in a deep-seated fear of being vulnerable, of being hurt, and of losing control. By manipulating others through guilt, emotional blackmail, or even benevolence, we can momentarily silence the internal voice that screams, "You're not enough." As we peel back the layers of our good guys, we're forced to confront the uncomfortable truth that even those we trust can be driven by insecurities. I want to hear from you. What are your observations about this complex dynamic? Hit that like button, share your insights in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth explorations of human psychology.